UFC Fight Night Tampa. We have a lot to discuss. As always, this video is brought to you via the Doctrine of Fair Use, the Fair Dealing, and the Digital Millennium Act. UFC Fight Night Tampa, a lot to discuss in this video, guys. We're going to talk about Colby Covington, his future in the UFC. We're going to talk about Joaquin Buckley, his rise to fame, his tough journey. And let's get it on, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, UFC Tampa. If you've never been there, this is where the Tampa Bay Lightning play. It's a beautiful indoor arena. There's carpet all over. There's luxury sofas, VIP sections everywhere. And if you have the opportunity to see any event there, whether a hockey game, a UFC match, I would encourage you to go. I mean, the beautiful river walk, there's a lot to do downtown Tampa, but this arena is beautiful. I've been here several times, ringside, octagon side, meeting all the fighters. Beautiful arena to watch a UFC match. Now, Colby coming into this match, 36 years old, the older man by 6 years, the taller opponent by 1 inch, the reach advantage to Buckley, and that would be a huge factor in this match. Now, if you're not familiar with Buckley, listen, a tough journey. I mean, he's talked about just growing up in his grandparents' house, his grandmother's house in particular, and just not having the resources to survive, just doing everything he can as a man to succeed. He would take a liking to mixed martial artists, and he would just take off, just a natural specimen of just physical dominance. I mean, look at this guy's physique. He's a humble guy. He's a classy guy, great character. You can tell he has integrity, and he's a man of his word. In the UFC now, guys, his 15th fight in the UFC, he's 11-4. He's on a 5-match win streak where a couple of them he's stopped. That's right. We're talking about big-time names, Hall of Fame names. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, last time they fought. He's actually got 4 fights this year, guys. A knockout in the 3rd round of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He knocked out Vincent Luque, a veteran. And I'm telling you guys, Buckley is, I mean, that we all know melanin is condensed sunlight. That energy he packs, much like someone like Alicia Parks, Coco Gauff, that energy they have when they explode and erupt with their momentum, it's dangerous for opponents, and Colby Covington would find out shortly. We're going to talk a little bit about Colby Covington. Listen, guys, Colby Covington, 36 years old. What is next for him? Now, he comes out with Hulk Hogan, and we're going to talk about Donald Trump in this video. Why don't we talk a little bit about Donald Trump right now? Listen, guys, Colby Covington, he's become one of the most hated UFC fighters on the roster, right? He bigs up Donald Trump all the time. And the fact that he came out to Hulk Hogan, to me, I don't know if he's trying to stay on code. I don't know what this is about, but we all know Hulk Hogan has had his controversy with his racial remarks and the things that he said. It just seems, I don't know if he's playing a character or if this is really him. But the reality here is we know at one point, him and Cuban Jesus, that's right, guys, Jorge Masvidal, they were roommates and they were kind of friends. But the lead up to that fight kind of showed me that maybe that was just business. Maybe they were just roommates because they had to be. It seemed like he really didn't like Jorge, just the things he said. And the fact that he brings out Hulk Hogan after just getting constantly so much heat for being a Donald Trump supporter, it's really it's ironic, but I think this is his true character. I'm trying to look between the lines and think maybe this is an act, maybe this is entertainment, maybe he's just trying to be the villain and get these big fights. But the reality here is he's not on pay-per-view anymore. You know, this is UFC Fight Night, and the reality is I think this is his true character. And if we take a look at Hulk Hogan, he's been involved in some, we've heard him. You know, integrity is what you do behind closed doors when no one's watching, right? So we know what Hulk Hogan's about. And a lot of people allegedly think he's a racist for what he has said on record. And we're going to talk a little about Donald Trump because Colby has supported Donald Trump. And the reality here is, listen, you know, I read all of the policies. And Donald Trump passed maybe about 8 or 9 good policies through executive orders that help all people in this country, all races, all colors. But what concerns me about Donald Trump is his Department of Justice, including him, they have passed a lot of laws that have affected primarily people of color. And that really, really bothers me, and that really, really concerns me. And it's very tough. Trump gets a lot of heat for allegedly being someone that discriminates, someone that's racist. And again, that's allegedly, right? We don't know what he truly thinks, what he feels, what he is. So that's allegedly. And again, these views are expressed allegedly. But the reality here is, if you look at the policies, like, for example, Obama gets a lot of heat for not doing much. But if you look at a lot of the policies that Obama passed, they help people on the lower end of the totem pole. They really did. And people don't really talk about them. If you take a look at a lot of the policies that Trump and his cabinet, his Department of Justice reversed, a lot of those policies affected people of color. And a lot of those policies, in my opinion, allegedly, from reviewing these policies, I would say they're highly discriminatory. I would say, allegedly, in my opinion, right? I would say a lot of those policies are very discriminatory. And if you're just reading this from the outside, just looking in, you could allegedly say that these are racist policies. You could, and again, I don't want you guys to read headlines and media stories. I want you to go in and take a look at the actual policy, the policy that's being passed, what is being done by these judges, by these officials in the Department of Justice, what is actually being done. And it's alarming. It's not good. You have to read this. So if you're one of these guys or ladies or people that just read media headlines and think, this is whatever you want to call it, a witch hunt and things like that. If you're one of these people that only read headlines, I'm going to ask you to take a week and just sit down and read the policy, read what's going on. And you're going to see that Obama passed a lot of laws. He passed a lot of policies that help uplift people, that help get people fair equity, fair opportunities to get jobs, help people get fair housing, fair health care. Obama's Department of Justice, they sued a lot of these organizations that were bringing people down and keeping people back. The future administration, the following administration, reversed a lot of these things. Read the policy. Do not watch campaign speeches. Do not watch media headlines. Do not watch the news. I'm asking you to go read the policy. It's very alarming. It's very disturbing. And you can see that in particular, there's one group of people that is affected by all of these policies. And that will give you a very clear conclusion of what is going on here. And in my personal opinion, allegedly, I think it's discrimination. I think it's very, very bad. And again, I'm telling you straightforward, you need to read the policy. You cannot watch the news. You cannot watch speeches because there's a lot of lying that goes on. You have to read the policy. I cannot enforce that enough. Me reading the policy, I've seen not 1, not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50. I'm seeing pages and 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 pages of discriminatory actions that are being done to one particular demographic, and it is not good. So when I see Colby Covington coming out here, this really bothers me. This concerns me because a lot of these athletes and entertainers and celebrities, they'll get paid, parent fees, or they'll get paid fees to do stuff. And a lot of times they may not read the policy or even know what's going on, because a lot of times if they're really focused on their craft, their training, they're spending a lot of their time bettering themselves. So they may not really know what they're endorsing. But as an adult, it's inexcusable. That's not an excuse. That's not an acceptable excuse. You have to know what you're backing and you're getting behind. And again, from my reading the policy, there's just something really, really wrong here. There's a clear pattern. Let's say if you run a business, right? You run a business, you manage a business, and you're the boss of the business. And everyone that you hire in that business, they're engaging in wrong things. They're treating your customers wrong. They're violating them for no reason, accusing them of things for no reason. And if you're the boss and you're allowing this to continuously happen, we're going to reach a conclusion pretty easily of where you stand and what you're about. And I'm very, very interested in what goes on in terms of these future policies that are going to come up. Because right now, if you're following what's going on, we see right now that Trump is calling for, added taxes to imports from countries like China, Mexico, and Canada. And if you're not familiar with NAFTA, that's the North American Free Trade Agreement, what's happening is there's basically an imposed tax that's going to be imposed on these countries to, essentially, I guess, allegedly strengthen this country. But the reality here is, if you're not familiar, we actually import a lot of essential goods from these countries. China controls like nearly 40-50%, if not higher. I think it's a little bit higher, of the pork industry in this country. China is also very big in, the media industry. Countries like Canada, we export a lot of our crude oil from them and our electricity from them. So Canada has already talked about in restricting electricity to our country, which is going to be disastrous. They've talked about, restricting the crude oil imports to our country. Mexico imports a lot of agriculture and a lot of things. So it seems to me like it's all about headlines, and a lot of these things that are about to happen. I mean, Elon Musk is the largest donor to this administration, right? And which I don't even know how that's legal. That's just crazy to me. And he says, look, the next 2 years are going to be very hard. Prepare yourself. They're going to be very disastrous. And then we have talks of World War III. There's a lot going on here. And my personal opinion is, I think even this current administration, I think did a horrible job. And I tell you all the time, I don't vote blue or red, right? I think the only party that has real solutions for people, equity. I'm big on reparations. I think you're not going to fix anything until you fix the wrong that was done. So I'm very big on that. But I do think, in particular, that I don't think this current administration did a good job of controlling inflation and the controllables that they could have made adjustments and policies for. But going into the next administration, the things they do to set people back, and this is my personal opinion, you can go read the policy. The next administration coming in is more favorable towards privatization. They're more favorable towards big business. The little guys are going to get left behind. You have to understand this, just like the last time, Trump came in, when he restricted a lot of the Obama healthcare policies. A lot of people then didn't have coverage that voted for him. And they were like, look, what are you doing? They didn't realize how hard it hit him until he started in office and making these changes. So again, a lot of people just follow the media and read the media. They don't really understand what's going on. There's a lot going on here. You have to read the policy. And for me, reading the policy, I didn't like what I saw with Trump and his Department of Justice. I didn't like, you take a look at someone like Obama. Obama appointed the most female judges in the history of any president. He appointed the most minority judges in the history of any president. He did a lot. He started off his term with, donating budgeting the most funds for HBCUs of any president, record numbers, so he did a lot, but he can't get on the media and explain all the things he's done over the 8 years. You have to read the policy, and me reading the policy, what I've read and see from Trump's first office, yes, I saw about 8 or 9 really, really good laws that he passed that really helped all people. But the other hundreds of laws that I saw, they were very bad for people. And I think a lot of people get fooled because, we were in a pandemic and they were able to send out funds to people. And a lot of people really think that was it. No, behind the scenes, there were a lot of laws that were passed that hurt people and set people back. As you go forward in this country, we could go over the decades and see the progress that people have made to get ahead. A lot of those laws really set people back. You got to go read it. And if you think everything's all good, it is not all good. So that's my personal opinion. When I see someone like Colby Covington coming out here, and again, a lot of this stuff doesn't affect him because the laws that I've seen, they affect poor people of color. This is not affecting Colby Covington, so he doesn't care. Hulk Hogan doesn't care. These guys are rich. They're paid. So again, it opens my eyes when I see someone like this constantly, and he's bringing out Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, come on, the things Hulk Hogan said are unacceptable, right? Let's get to the fight, guys. Now, Hulk Hogan backing Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley, look, on a nice 5-match win streak coming in to this fight. This is his 4th fight this year. He's very active. And here's the thing with Colby Covington. He's a great wrestler. We all know that. But if he can't get you to the mat, it's going to be tough. And losing, guys, 2 of his last 3 fights, the rematch with Kamaru Usman, I just thought there's no way he's going to beat Usman. There's no way he's going to beat Usman. I mean, he beat Tyron Woodley in 2020. He was at the end of his career. He beat Robbie Lawler, who, again, at the end of his career. He beat Dos Anjos, a good win. Damian Maia, again, another wrestler that doesn't really have the stand-up game. That's a match. And, again, we're going back, 6-7 years now. But in terms of the most recent fights, he beat Jorge Masvidal, again, at the end of his career. Not a good wrestler, but when they were on the feet, Jorge won those exchanges. Leon Edwards, who has the stand-up game, who has the wrestling ability, he beat him by unanimous decision. Now, fast forward here to this fight from the Leon Edwards fights. Joaquin Buckley he's very explosive, a lot of power. He's very strong. And I feel, some of his early struggles in the UFC was just really getting used to how things are done. When you're coming in from these other promotions, and we know he came from Bellator, losing that match against Logan Storley, but he went to LFA where, he got a couple wins. Started things off bad here, losing to Kevin Holland, who just has that reach and that range to keep opponents away, uses his reach advantage to him, and just picks you apart. But again, on the win streak, I'm very impressed with the win over Alex Morono, right? Won that unanimously. Very impressed with the knockout over Vincent Luque, very tough New York guy, good hands. And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, even though he's getting up there in age, a karate kid. Good to keep opponents at bay with those kicks. He's very good on his feet. But Colby Covington, he had success in this match. First of all, the first round, Joaquin Buckley just came out and he just jumped on Colby. Look at the kicks there, keeping him at bay. Open him up very early here. And you can tell with the scar tissue, I don't think Colby Covington has a long time left in the UFC. In fact, I think he should hang it up and retire, because coming into this match, Joaquin Buckley, he's 9th. He's ranked 9th in the division. If you can't beat the ranked 9th opponents, it's time for you to retire, especially after being the number 1 contender for so long and undeservedly. Like, let's just be honest. I think Leon Edwards should have had the opportunity a lot earlier than Colby Covington. Colby did have success in the second round where he got Joaquin down, but Joaquin's too strong and explosive. That's that melanin. That's the condensed sunlight. Too strong, too explosive. Found his way back up to his feet, and just look at that bloody mess there. That is just disastrous, ladies and gentlemen. Just pounding away and destroying this guy. Unbelievable. Colby Covington had no answer again. That's him controlling Joaquin on the map. Had a success. But if he didn't get that submission, which he didn't, and couldn't get the submission, every round is started standing up on the feet, and Joaquin Buckley just picked him apart with the jab, the right cross, the left hook, and that's enough, guys. The doctors in between rounds were warning Colby, look, there's a chance this is going to be stopped, and sure enough, 4 minutes into round 3, Joaquin Buckley wins, and the post, look at that face, very, very brutal, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Imagine taking, I mean, the final punch stat numbers were just freaking disastrous. Joaquin Buckley destroyed this guy. We're talking about 2-1 advantage in significant strikes. 75 significant strikes landed by Buckley. He threw 151, 59 of those to the head, ladies and gentlemen. He even controlled Colby on the mat for over a minute. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. And this was a brutal beatdown. I think it's time for Colby to hang it up, whether it's an act or not, but these political shenanigans, I think it's enough. It's time for Colby to hang it up. Now, Joaquin in the post-match interview had a really interesting interview, and I think a lot of fighters should do this more. He actually had the crowd. It was a pro-Colby crowd. Yeah, they were cheering Colby. They wanted Colby to win. But Joaquin would say, look, I'm sorry, guys. I know you want this knockout. I should have stopped him in the first round, so I had to let it go on so long. He would go on to say, look, who do you want me to fight next? I'm going to let you guys decide by cheering. Leon Edwards or Kamaru Usman. And it looks like they want to see him fight Usman. My personal opinion, I think he stops Usman. Look, in terms of fighting, it's really when you're hot, when you're winning, you're on your streak, it's very easy to be motivated, go in the gym and train and work hard. But once you take a few losses, it's very tough. You got that scar tissue. You know, and not necessarily, but I feel sometimes your trainers just kind of stop believing in you a bit. Sometimes it's tough to get motivated. And at that point when that happens, and I think Colby's there, I think Usman's there as well, I think it's time to hang it up because we've seen Usman lose some questionable matches he should have won. And I think a lot of it's training, it's motivation. I say it all the time with these professional athletes. When it's time or near the end, when you think they should retire, a lot of it's motivation. They still have the skills. They're still talented. They're still that amazing person. But it takes a lot to train and get to that high level. And I think when you start to lose your edge, it's time to hang it up. There's a new sheriff in town. His name is Joaquin Buckley. He said, look, I'm thankful I can finally feed and take care of my family. I can finally help my grandmother with her medical bills. And this is a beautiful story, guys. Humble beginnings, a very classy guy. He stops Colby Covington. We're going to get back to tennis. We do have a championship in France. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? We have Victoria Golubic and we have Celine Naif. Celine is a very classy woman. We saw her cry and get emotional when she had to play her idol, Venus Williams. And, of course, Golubic, who has that one-handed backhand, keeping Roger and Stan's one-handed backhand technique alive. Not too many people use a one-handed backhand these days, but I do feel indoor hard. Celine Naif she's a problem. She's going to be a lot more fast, explosive, and athletic. We're going to see if that's enough to keep the defensive tactics of Golubic off of her. We'll be back, guys. Enjoy the video.